right. Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us all here today. Today is Shaar HaBitachon Nishmas, our dear friend Menachem ben Yisrael Yaakov, as well as my dear aunt Rivka Bas Gavriel Tzvi, and for Zaidi, Reb Shmuel ben Yosef Dov HaKohen, and B'schos l'Refuah Shalema Bekarov Meshalom ben Sarachel, Miriam Bas Sarah, and Yair Yeshia ben Chaya Atara. Today, we are on page 251 in the Ora Vigda, for those who are following along. And today we're going to talk about the complete opposite of what we spoke about yesterday. Yesterday we spoke about when a person is going through a trying time with their financial status. And we spoke about how to go about that, understanding that how everything is from Hashem, and how we should trust that even though we don't have anything now, but Hashem is not letting you go. We brought some explanations to that as to when we were growing up, starting from our infancy, that Hashem made sure that when we were nursing from our mother, that we always had just enough food every single feeding you. And even though we might have not have anything put away, but when it came next time to eat, we always had food. And then we talked about the Yidden when they went through the Midbar, and they went through 40 years, and every single day they didn't prepare for the next day. They didn't have a storage of food. They had the man that was put down by the door every single morning. And so the idea of it was that we should understand and trust that, yes, it might be difficult, but we have to trust that Hashem is going to take care of you all the time. Today we're going to talk about what happens when you're very successful. And we should all see so much bracha on that. Many of us already have. Many of us have had and gone different ways. And just remember that it's, at the end of the day, just a side point, all those things that go through you, those trying times from going from wealth to difficulties, and going from difficulties to wealth is also difficult. We're going to learn that in a couple of weeks. But the point is that we have to understand that all those different things, they are tests from Hashem. And today we're going to talk about this specific test of having an abundance, having wealth, but not necessarily to the point where like you're super rich, but just having that extras, and you start having this idea that, you know, where is it coming from? Where is this money coming from? He says like this, furthermore, a person should not be misled if his livelihood comes to him in one way and not another. Meaning, he thinks it might be from this and not from another way. And Rabbi Victor says that suppose a person walks into a field and is a farmer, and then he's working for years, and all of a sudden he finds this box of diamonds, and he all of a sudden becomes rich overnight. Or if somebody wins the lottery, they become rich over the night. This person is going to try to say is, you know why I'm rich? I'm rich because I won the lottery. I'm rich because I found this box of diamonds. I'm rich because I built a company, and that's where I'm getting my parnasa from. Not in a way where I'm trying to boast, but in a way where you're trying to point to the source of your income. You're trying to understand, how am I making this money in a logical way, right? And not in a boastful way, just even not to anyone else, just for yourself. But you say, where did I make this money? I made this money because I built up this company. I made this money because I inherited. I made this money. It may also be that his livelihood comes to him in one place and not another. Maybe, he finds himself in a specific, city for long times in his life, and he doesn't have any success. Then there's this whole concept of Mashana Makkah, Mashana Mazel. He uses that, he moves away. He uses the quote of Mashana Makkah, Mashana Mazel. You change your place, you change your luck, and all of a sudden he becomes successful. And so he says, oh, you know why I'm successful? Because I moved from my hometown, I moved away, I moved to another country, I moved to another city. And that's why I'm successful. It may also be that his livelihood came to him through one individual and not another. And this is also like you choose to go work for one person, or you want to work for a specific person, thinking that that's the way you're going to be able to earn your livelihood. But your livelihood might come from another place. The point over here, Chavos was trying to make, that you shouldn't think that your livelihood, and that's the overall theme over here, comes from one specific way, or from an avenue, or from a person, or from being in the right place at the right time. It's not that. Yomer Belibai. He warns us and he tells us to remember this. In all these cases, the successful man should say to himself, Ashi yitzarenu lo altsura v'savnes eschuna umida. the one who created me in a certain form, a certain appearance, a certain characteristics and qualities, different from everyone else, all from one particular purpose. He chose that my livelihood should come in a way that is favorable for my purpose, to the exclusion of other ways. Hashem wanted to make it this way in order to give me a certain benefit or a certain test. We know that we're born with certain attributes. People are born with certain gifts, certain talents. Everyone has a talent. That's the truth. Not everyone hones in on that talent, but everyone has something. Hashem gave you that so that you could go ahead and be fulfilling in life. You can go do your hishtadlus properly. But what he's saying over here is that understand, just the same way Hashem gave you those God-given talents, God-given, abilities, that same is true when it comes to everything else in your life. Every opportunity that you have is God-given. When you become wealthy, or you become successful by building a company, your source, and this is the mindset that we have to make sure we change. There's a difference between a source and then the median, or the shaliach, or the vessel. The source of all things in your life is only Hashem and will always be Hashem. There is a median, there's a vessel, how do we go about that? And we call that cause and effect. Hashem runs this world in a system called cause and effect. What you need to remember is, and that's super important, is that your source of your income is not because you won the lottery, not because you have a successful company, not because you're smart and you were able to figure out and invent a product and make money that way. Not because of that. Those were the methods that Hashem uses in this play, in this script that he calls life. And what your outcome is going to be, the outcome was already written before the script was written. Now you're just running through that script, and the outcome is going to be the same regardless of what happens. So the point he's making is, don't attribute your successes to a specific person or specific talent that you have. And you say, without this business, I wouldn't have had the extra money that I have. That's not true. You would have had that extra money. Hashem chose this avenue. If you didn't have this avenue, he would have chosen another avenue, would have given it to somehow. You would have gotten it somehow. And point is, by the way, very, very clearly, you see very often where people make extra money, maybe not win lottery, but people get extra money out of the blue, or maybe a business deal comes out of the blue, or a real estate opportunity comes out of nowhere. And the point is that that's not where you were running after money every single day. You went every day after money because of your trade, because of your business that you're in, the sales that you're in, and you look to make money in that avenue. And yes, it gives you an income, but all of a sudden you get a once-in-a-lifetime deal that gives you as much of an income that you made the last 10 years doing your 9-to-5 job. And so we see clearly, we don't have to dig deep and kind of conceptualize, we see it very clearly that there are people, and us as well, I'm sure if you dig deep into your own history, you'll find it as well, that there's extras that come to you not because of something that you do every single day. It comes to you because Hashem wants you to have it, and he sends it to you. He sends it to you in various ways, maybe through a gift, maybe through winning a lottery, or whatever it is, but the point is you get these extras. And the one who brought me out to this world in a certain place, he continues to understand this concept that everything is done from Hashem, and through means of two individuals, through your parents, without the involvement of any other people. He chose to give me my livelihood in a certain country, some the tarpi, and through two parents who raised me, and through the business that I have, or through the company that I work for, or through the customers that I have that I do work for, everything over there is done in a way where it is done in cause and effect. But at the end of the day, those are just avenues. Those are good excuses that Hashem uses to give you money, so that you look at it and you think it's a normal thing, it's how things are. But where you gain, and we spoke about this yesterday also, where you gain tremendous amount of schar and brownie points with Hashem is when you do think about the fact that the source of all your income is from Hashem. And we've said this before, very often when we're down on our luck, when we're down on all kinds of different things, we daven to Hashem, we thank Hashem, we do everything, we do all kinds of segulas, we do everything we can and look up to Hashem and say, Hashem, 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 please. But it's so much more difficult when we have the abundance, when we finally get what we were looking for, or if something that maybe we weren't lacking it before, we just have wealth, we just have health, we have beautiful, healthy children, and we don't think about the fact that those are all gifts from Hashem. It's everything is the source, is Hashem, and that's the point he wants to make. If you start thinking every single day that your source, that where you get everything, is from Hashem, not your job, not your customers, not the brains that you have. If you start realizing that it's Hashem that's the source and everything else is just Hashem's way of getting it to you, then you will earn so much schar, and that schar goes into your 613M in Olam Haba. Thank you everyone for joining us all here today, and from all the way here in Texas, I love you all.